In the early days, I did have some negative experiences with fans, and I really just don't want to remember those times, and I don't want to think about them.
It's a given that these films work on a number of levels, but I would hate to think you're going to have people saying, well, anybody that goes to see a Halloween movie really wants to be Michael Myers and kill a bunch of people. I think that's crap, personally.
It's sad that that's what people want to see. We want to see destruction and death and the kill and the suspense and this and that. It's not going to make us murderers. But it may make one person. And if you make that one person into a murderer and says, oh, I saw this film, and that's how I'm going to go kill my brother in Denmark, then the person responsible for making that film can almost be responsible for inspiring that person to kill. Do you want that on your shoulders?
Well, I have a real hard time listening to that crap. When I go to the movies, I'm not looking to have my world moved. I want to be entertained. I want to get away from my problems with my girlfriend, my problems at work, or my mom's really bugging me lately. I want to go sit in a dark room and be taken away into a world. That's why these movies work. That's why they never go away. And if you got a problem, I mean, if you think they're the downfall of society, you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it.
Should psychoanalysis come into the evaluation of these movies? No. Strictly entertainment.
I think all the blood, guts, violence, and a splatter movie is a good thing. You know, it's just entertainment. Only way it's not a good thing is if you're already a psycho to begin with.
I guess you do have to rely on the fact that most human beings have good heads upon their shoulders and aren't going to be like, oh god, cool guy, wears masks, stabs people, chases people around.
I don't think horror movies are bad. I think they're what they are. They're horror movies. They're fake.
He said he wanted to take me away with him, and if I didn't go, then all shit was going to hit the fan. He's still out there. I get nervous. Like, I don't do many of these shows because I'm so afraid that this is publicized. I mean, how would he not know this is a Halloween show? He could very well come here and nobody would know. I've never seen him face to face. So he could come walk right up to me and ask me to sign an autograph and then follow me to my car.
5 years passed and there was still no news about a continuation of the series.
And there was this gap where Michael Myers was kind of forgotten for a while. And then Freddy Krueger came into picture, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Jason Voorhees. And I was going around going, yeah, but what about Michael Myers? He's the king.
The rumors flew. John Carpenter was making the new film, and it involved sending Michael Myers into space. Jamie Lee Curtis would be returning. Quentin Tarantino would be writing and directing the new installment.
Quentin Tarantino took a stab at writing the screenplay for Halloween 6. He wrote an original version that they ended up not shooting.
None of these rumors came true, and another battle took place for the direction of the series.
When we finally went to Halloween 6, there were bids by Miramax and New Line, and Miramax got the bid.
The new film in the franchise was to be a major studio release for the first time under Miramax's Dimension wing. The responsibility for the story, however, wouldn't be falling to a studio writer, but to a long-term die-hard fan, Daniel Farrens.
I was 12 years old when I was sitting in the living room of my house in 1981 watching the first NBC showing of Halloween, the original movie. And I sat there alone and in the dark and watched this and was terrified and then riveted. And from then it became a thing where I was completely engrossed with these films.
Conflicted with Farrens' vision.
Joe Chappelle had no interest in Halloween 6. He had an interest in getting a 3-picture deal with Dimension, and that was his sole purpose of doing this horror film.
I met with one of the Weinsteins. He had wanted a big makeup effects extravaganza, and I was happy to do that. That's great. However, in the subsequent weeks, the producer kept cutting back the effects, wanting less and less and less and less. And I'd hired the best crew in the world to create the most complex, over-the-top special effects you've ever seen. And they were frustrated on set because they weren't really allowed to do anything but stab people.
The disputes didn't stop there, and they extended to the casting. Lead actor Marion Hagen nearly wasn't given the role as Kara Strode.
He said, oh yeah, I mean, Miramax did not like you at all. Well, first of all, they thought you were way too thin. And he said, and they also didn't like your chin. I said, what? They felt it was too pointy. So I basically continued the movie like this in every shot. Like, I became so self-conscious about my chin.
Perhaps the most controversial casting decision made was the replacement of Danielle Harris with actress J.C. Brandy.
I was happy for the work, and I didn't find out till after the fact how fond the fans were of Danielle. But she's adorable in those movies, so I understand why they like her. I know that some of them felt I looked a little too old to be her at 15.
We tried to bring her back on 6.
I didn't care for the script. I didn't really like the way Jamie Lloyd died. But I had a lot of fans that sort of loved me, and for her to go out like that, I thought it was pretty crappy. So I went and met with the director, and we sort of talked about different things and ways we can kind of work stuff out, and wasn't really seeing eye to eye. So then it became, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a little bit of money. Miramax basically said your character is a scale plus 10 character because you die in the first act, which is about what I made on the first Halloween about 8 years before. So I said, okay, if it's the way you think about me, even though this would be my 3rd movie, then I don't think I'll be doing it.
Some actors did return, however. There was the ever-loyal Donald Pleasence in what was to be his final on-screen performance. Press reports at the time speculated on his health. Donald Pleasence passed away in England on February 2nd, 1995, shortly after completing additional dialogue for the film.
I was in Vancouver working on the Outer Limits TV series when I heard that he had passed away, and I was in the car and it said on the radio, Dr. Loomis from the Halloween series, Donald Pleasence has passed away. And I remember going back to my hotel and calling John Carpenter immediately and just saying, I'm really sorry, because John, they were really tight.
How about working with Donald Pleasence on the last one? How was that for everybody?
Great.
Really wonderful. An honor.
He's amazing. And this series is not the same without him, I have to say.
For his final showdown, Loomis's nemesis was again played by George Wilbur, returning from Halloween 4.
Mr. Akkad decided that I was good enough to do number 6. That was it. I was just privileged to be picked for number 6 by Mr. Akkad.
No longer independent, the Halloween series was now subject to the ordeal of the test screening.
An obvious part of making a studio film is you have to do a test screening. For better or for worse, some people don't like it, some do. Some filmmakers don't like it, some tolerate it.
The test screenings were filled with mostly 14-year-old boys, I think. But I heard one very articulate 14-year-old boy said on the Q&A afterwards, the ending sucked.
I wouldn't have wanted someone to ask me, my opinion of how Jaws should have been re-edited when I was 17. I would have ruined the fucking movie, you know? Geez, how could I have made The Wild Bunch better when I was 14?
Halloween 6 did not perform well in the test screenings, and the film was suddenly rushed back into production, without Donald Pleasence and without creative input from Daniel Ferrens. What resulted was a drastic overhaul, leading to almost a third of the film being shot again.
Halloween 6 had an original cut. Director was happy, but this was the first time Miramax was sandwiched onto the deal. They looked at it and they wanted a different ending. And it had to be more extravagant and a little crazier and a little more psychedelic and a little more mad.
Dimension had other ideas about how it should end, and the whole cult sequence was eliminated.
Hello, dear. Despite the backing from Miramax, the film was again a critical failure, and the future looked bleaker than ever for the series. However, the late 90s also saw the rise of the internet, and the fans continued to hunt out information, forming small but devoted online communities, from those on the official Halloween website, HalloweenMovies.com, to smaller fan sites like the Myers Museum and One Good Scare. Fans began to interact with each other through message boards.
I seriously have it open every day, 9 through 5.
The difference between the American Pie fans and the Halloween fans. Certainly no one is dissecting the psyche of the characters of any of the American Pie films, whereas Halloween fans are wondering why Michael walked by that room while a girl was holding up her shirt and wondering if he was repressed sexually as a child. So there's definitely a big difference.
Whenever I'm traveling, I will run into a Halloween fan, and and they want to know all the details about, the knife and the mask and, what was Jamie Lee like and how were the other actors and was I terrified?
The emergence of an organized internet fan base with new tools to communicate would be a major influence on the future of the series. The producers asked the fans to vote on what direction the next film would take via a poll on their official website, and fans even wrote and filmed their own Halloween sequels.
They wanted to create a super soldier from her genetic makeup.
One of the most popular fan films, Des Shaw's Halloween Inferno, even played in a Canadian theater for a week. Without a film in circulation, the demand for merchandise still grew voraciously, spawning comic books, novels, clothing, and toys, a collector's dream come true.
I don't really know the total number of items I've got. What I paid for it so far is probably $20,000.
Similarly, it would be the fans that would unearth the original version of Halloween 6. Known in bootlegging circles as the producer's cut, it spread quickly through the fan base and became the collectible to have.
Stay out of it. I'd be happy to go to eBay and buy it from you because everybody's been buying it there for the past 8 years. I mean, I just don't understand why the studio doesn't release this other version of the movie. It's a better version.
I really would like to see the producer's cut come together, and that's something that we're trying to look into here at the company.
Depending on which version of Halloween 6 fans opted for, they saw two distinct endings, so speculation was rampant over which storyline would be followed for the next film. To everyone's surprise, it was neither. In 1996, Miramax had a huge hit on their hands with Scream, a film that was inspired by the original Halloween.
Years later, Miramax bought the rights to the Halloween franchise, and they had the idea of, and Jamie actually had the idea of reuniting us again and I met with them. Everybody wanted to do it except me. God bless all of you here, but no thanks.
The idea was to go back to the roots of the franchise, and although Donald Pleasance would be missing, Jamie Lee Curtis returned to the role that made her famous.
The storyline of Halloween H2O is it's centered around Jamie Lee's character, who she's got a dark secret, Michael Myers, and he's always trying to kill her.
We wanted Jamie Lee to do one way before that, but she wouldn't do it. I guess for her career or whatever it was. And finally, they got her to do it. Paid her a lot of money, but they got her to do it.
The producers decided to not treat H2O as the 7th installment, but instead as a direct sequel to Halloween 2.
That was kind of sold as if it was the first Halloween sequel, as if forget all the others. So that was a kind of franchise kick-starting thing, trying to make you forget that they'd ever done it.
The idea was to treat H2O as if it was Halloween 3. I think the reason that we did that is because Jamie Lee was back in the series, and it just it presented more of a level of continuity for the entire franchise.
H2O turned a dying franchise into a massive success, and 20 years after his debut, Michael Myers was now a pop culture phenomenon.
For the most part, yes, the Halloween movies at this point, 20-some years down the road, are products. But I think there is room within them to make them creative endeavors and to respect the fans and to respect the audience and make them as entertaining as possible.
Despite the popularity of H2O, there was still controversy with two disputes becoming public. The first involved the score for the film, composed by John Ottman.
A lot of the scenes I just cringe in because they weren't the way I had scored them. I mean, there was one, he's in this hallway, it's this low angle shot of Michael Myers, and I had that's where I had pulled out the stops of the theme, going da da da, bum 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 bum. It was great with the choir, and that was replaced by.
The second dispute revolved around the infamous mask. The original mask of the killer was actually a customized William Shatner Captain Kirk mask adapted for the film by Tommy Lee Wallace.
With Michael Myers, the mask really is part of the defining look of what he's about.
There's something terrifying about that. Just two holes in a fairly blank surface. I guess it goes way back to the primitive messages in our DNA about masks in general, and every culture has its masks.
The absence of personality allows the audience to put into that absence what they will. And probably what you put behind that mask and what I put behind that mask are going to be completely different things.
H2O would ultimately contain no less than 4 variations of the Shape mask.
The mask controversy